When it comes to the European MMA scene, there are no events that really have as much prestige as a London UFC fight card. And though I could probably come up with about 10 reasons to tune in next Saturday night, for the purpose of this video, I've managed to whittle it down to 5 definitive reasons why UFC London is going to be one hell of a night of fights. So let's get into it. The return of Gunnar Nelson. First off, we have the return of the Icelandic submission specialist Gunnar Nelson, a man who just so happens to have made a second home of Ireland during those crucial opening years of his career. Even when the extremely divisive rise of Conor McGregor was going down, Gunnar always had a certain level of legitimacy and popularity that was separate to that, because Gunnar Nelson generally comes across as quite calm, quite stoic, and quite likeable. And if you ask me, his 8-5 record inside of the octagon doesn't really do a good job at fully conveying just how elite he is and how elite he can be. Losses to guys like Leon Edwards, Gilbert Burns, Demian Maia, and some blatant eye-pokery from Santiago Ponzinibbio may have left Nelson's pursuit of the top 10 in a pretty bad spot by the time he last competed. But the dude is only 33, and given that he hasn't made the walk to the cage in over 2.5 years, I am just excited to see him attempt to carve out some consistency this year. In front of him, Takashi Sato will serve as the perfect opponent for Nelson to try and work his submission magic. And as far as long-awaited octagon returns are concerned, watching this Icelandic man getting back into competition is going to be a real high point on this card. The debut of Mohammed Mokayev, the debut of the standout 125-pound prospect Mohammed Mokayev, is without question one of my most anticipated UFC debuts in quite some time. Coming into the UFC at the age of 21, this kid has a surprising amount of experience, both on the back of his 6-0 professional record, as well as his outstanding 23-0 run as an amateur. Born in Dagestan but raised in England, while there is limited footage available of Mokayev's professional career up until this point, what we do have showcases a flyweight and sometimes a bantamweight who really does look like the complete package. Whether he makes a run at the top 15 now or has a slow, drawn-out rise, I see Mohammed Mokayev as a real danger who will likely blossom into something very special over the next 6 or 7 years, regardless of what happens on Saturday. Opposite him, Cody Durden should prove to be a fitting test. He has more experience, some solid wrestling credentials, and ultimately, we will certainly know a lot more about these two guys by the time this early prelim matchup is through. A breakthrough? Okay, I'm gonna cheat a little with this one. On the subject of local talents within the European scene, there are more than a few fighters here who seem to be on the verge of finding a statement victory. The featherweight contender, Arnold Allen, who is ranked as the number 7 145-pound fighter on the planet, has managed to compile an incredibly impressive 8-0 record within the UFC, all while flying completely under the radar. And in the form of Dan Hooker, he will have the type of name value and technical challenge that could well see him leave the arena as a star. Paul the Bear Jew Craig could likely submit any 205-pound fighter on the planet, with wins over Magomed Ankalaev and Jamal Hill proving to be his standout victories. The bantamweight prospect Jack Shore, an incredibly calm and composed performer who has somehow had his bout buried on the prelims, despite his clear status as one of the best rising 135-pounders in the game. Those of you who have followed the Fight Week drama surrounding Paddy Pimblett, who I'll get to shortly, will no doubt be aware of Ilia Topuria, a fighter who is just an absolute handful. His last victory came in the form of a brutal knockout of Ryan Hall at featherweight, but with him now competing at lightweight, the incredibly young Topuria has all of the athleticism, the power, and the excellent ground game to be a real threat, no matter what division he's fighting in. On a quick side note, if you're enjoying this content and would like to keep up to date with all of our weekly uploads, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you can be here to witness the pure joy in my voice when the UFC finally come back to Ireland. Also, we recently set up a Patreon account, so if you want to help support the channel, the link is in the description. One to watch. Paddy Pimblett is a fighter who I've been watching for years now. If you're a regular viewer of Cage Warriors, it would have been practically impossible to avoid noticing this magnetic Liverpudlian as he made his way towards promotional gold. And though, if I'm honest, I've never really seen him as an elite fighter on a global level, I'm not willing to rule out the possibility of seeing him make a serious push if he can get his head on straight. You look at the guys who have beaten Paddy the Baddy. Nad Nurmani, who's had a 2-2 UFC record. Soren Bak, who's an absolute beast fighting under the Bellator banner. Not terrible losses by any means, but I think for me, I need to see how this heightened exposure has affected Pimblett. Will he be hindered by his fame, or will he rise to the occasion, building off his rather uneven debut with a performance that turns some of his doubters into supporters? The foundation is there. I just think the real pull factor with me here is that I genuinely don't know what to expect from this guy. Either way, I'm intrigued, and you should be too. The next big thing at heavyweight. And finally, we have perhaps the best fight of the night in terms of real consequences for the division in question, where I have my doubts about Paddy Pimblett's prospects. Well, that's a tough one to say. Paddy Pimblett's prospects, Paddy Pimblett's prospects, Paddy Pimblett's prospects. Nailed it. Where I do have my doubts about that particular fighter's prospects, as far as a run at the top of his division is concerned, my trust in Tom Aspinall's overall game is a lot more concrete. The dude has a level of speed and precision for a heavyweight that, when coupled with his prowess as a methodical but devastating finisher, does make him a real danger within this weight class. But that said, Alexander Volkov is a truly underrated athlete, a guy who's only really picking up defeats to the best, while also scoring wins over some real mainstays within the heavyweight ranks. This is a major step up for Aspinall, and for Volkov, a major opportunity to find his way back into the top 5. I actually think that the best is yet to come from Alexander Volkov, oddly enough. I still think that he has more to showcase, but if Tom Aspinall is as good as I think he is, there's a chance that it won't matter, and that for me is the sell. It's a damn good main event, and a pretty fantastic card from top to bottom. But what's your take on this weekend's card? And who are you most excited to see return to the cage? Do let us know your opinions in the comment section below. We always love to hear from you guys. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and a comment before subscribing to the channel so you can stay up to date with all of our latest uploads. Thank you for watching.